Hi guys, welcome to Chakra Sessions. I'm your host, Polly Jo Labbé, broadcasting to you through YouTube and on the Trinity Mystical Energy channel. Thanks for joining us. I'm really glad to have you guys here. Tonight's broadcast, this chakra session, is all about calming the inner chaos. It's been really transparent to me lately that we are all experiencing some form of chaos. Things are shifting, things are changing, and that can be really uncomfortable. And in that uncomfortable place, it can create a domino of things that seem to go wrong or just aren't going the way they used to. And that can make us feel anxious, nervous, fearful, and a whole host of other things. But really, it's just that there's all this chaos going on outside of us, and it starts it churning inside. This wonderful COVID has taught us, change is inevitable. And one of the things around that is that we are in this place where, we have to adapt. We're in growing pains as a society and as humanity. And that those growing pains are really about, stretching and trying something new, being something new. Just because something's always been done one way doesn't mean that it needs to continue in that direction. So that's really fun. Hi, Carol. Thank you for loving my mermaid hair. Moving to the ocean, I'm getting more playful or more adventurous. Maybe because I have a really creative stylist who likes to play, and I let her. So I'm loving it. It's got blues and greens and purples in it, and I feel very oceany. So it's very appropriate for the summer and for being here in Maine on the coast. So for me, chaos looked like moving. I moved twice during COVID, and moved my business, relaunched my school in a whole new way, and just a lot of shifting, a lot of changing, and some of that chaos is like controllable, like how you packed your boxes and unpack them, then where your stuff is. But other things is like learning to navigate the local grocery store and or stores, and who's got what you like to have or your family likes to have, or maybe you're used to having something delivered and now you can't, or vice versa. Those are all things that can feel a little chaotic. Hi, Julie. Nice to have you here. Glad you're with us too. And I know you know about chaos. And those of us who have children, even if they're older, we know what chaos can look like. You can plan a day. It's going to go like this. And stuff happens. The shift happens, as Rob was saying earlier. And when we have to shift, we have to like realign and regroup. It doesn't have to mean anything's wrong. It's just that it's out of the normal. And just that little tweaking of what's happening outside of us or inside of us can stir in our energy system some chaotic reactions. I like to think of the chemistry. It makes like these chemical reactions. You add a little bit too much of something and the experiment goes awry. And that's a learning experience for the scientist, right? The scientist actually isn't sad when those things happen because it's a learning opportunity. But most of the time when we're doing that here inside of us, it doesn't feel like a learning opportunity. So hi, Lisa. Nice to have you. Glad you joined us tonight. We're talking about calming the inner chaos. And like I said, my team has been talking to me about this because we all have chaos in different ways. And, often I work with a lot of people who have some form of trauma. So often when they're having chaos in various parts of their lives, in their job or their relationships, emotionally they're reacting inside of them, and that emotional body, that the emotional layer of the energetic body, is trying to find balance. And a lot during, a lot of spiritual teachers are talking about, grounding, and we have been for for decades. Um, so I've seen all good people turn their heads each day. So satisfied, I'm on my way. Yes. Um, very cool, Rob. So one of the things that happens is that, you know, when people are talking about being grounded, it's about being a place where you're calm when shift happens, when things just don't go exactly as planned and you need to adapt. And when we've had so much change going on around us lately, sometimes little tiny things can set off the anxious energy, or set off the worry, or set off the fear, or trigger our addictions. Another thing that I'm seeing a lot of is that, addictive behavior, whatever it is, whether it's grabbing food or grabbing a drink or a cigarette, or being on our, inseparable from our devices, that can be an escape mechanism, and it's an avoidance technique, and very often they're good ones. We go to them because they work. It may not be good for us, but when they work, often we will go to them. And so what happens is something chaotic is happening outside of us. It triggers a chaotic reaction inside of us, and we work on trying to calm that or quiet that. And sometimes we don't have a strategy for that. And that chaos is something that is a constant more than we realize. There's always things that are shifting and moving. But we've had a lot going on all at once lately. And so we're almost hypersensitive to it. Like everybody's a little bit on edge in terms of they're saturated with change. And so one more thing on the pile can feel like an avalanche. So when you feel into your energy body and you look for what's not functioning the way you want it to, or maybe it's just not comfortable. For me, when I close my eyes, I check out where in my body I feel discomfort. Do I feel tightness in my belly? Do I feel tension in my neck or my shoulders? Is there pressure in my lower back? Do I notice, is my breath more shallow than normal? And that's my energy check-in. I'm like, what is my body trying to tell me? Because your body knows there's chaos before we know there's chaos. And when we can check in, we can see where our body is reacting. Because even that, chronic back pain, that is a constant stressor. And so your body is under constant stress in that part of your energy body. It means it's not getting a break. And So if you've got one place where you have chronic pain and all of a sudden you have something else on your plate, it can send your body into overload. I think about when somebody is in an accident and if they break multiple bones, often they only sense or feel one of them. I fell down cement stairs a few years ago, and I sprained both my ankles and one of my wrists. And all I could feel was one ankle. I could feel my wrist a little bit because I knew I couldn't push myself up. And I felt the pain. I assumed I broke my ankle. And I knew I couldn't really move. And my chaotic response was to just laugh because I was in so much pain and so much overload that there was no thinking, you know? And my husband is what, are you okay? And I'm like, nope, I'm not okay. um, and you know, what can I do? And I'm like, I have no idea. I just knew that I was in this place where too much was going on. And when they were x-raying me, they x-rayed both my ankles. And I was like, why are you x-raying both my ankles? And the nurse said, probably tomorrow or the next day, you'll understand why. You know, one was bad, but one was really bad. And so my body, my brain could not handle all of the sensory overload. So it focused on the one. And that often happens. You only notice the one because that's all your brain can manage. And then as you start to heal and it starts to ease back, you start to feel the other places. And with something physical like that, we can see it and we can sense it and we're like, oh, okay, that's what's happening. But emotionally, we don't have that same my team is showing me like points. We don't have that point of reference of like, this is our base normal, and now we've added our chronic stressor and now we've gone into over stress. We don't necessarily have that emotionally. We don't have those points of reference for us to know when we're heading into overload. And many women in the group, I'm sure, have had, we're often trained to do 10 things at once. Men are as well, but it's part of the mother, the feminine archetype of, you're wrangling a bunch of kids and it's the gatherer, it's the gatherer energy. The hunter energy is very focused and narrow pointed and on the target. As the gatherers, we're looking at our entire environment all the time and taking all of that information in. So we're used to assimilating a lot of energy. And so we might not know we're going into chaos or sensory overload until we're already in it. One of the things that I experienced in the past were panic attacks. And, there were warning signs sometimes, but often really almost till they were not too late. And it's like you were in the panic and you could keep it from escalating, but it was one of those things that, stress is such a big part of our everyday life that we dismiss, well, it's just stress. It's just stress. And we don't realize that our poor little energy body might be a little raw around the edges. So what I've been experiencing with clients and students lately is that many people's emotional body right now is a little raw. Like their feels are really close to the surface. So people are getting angry quicker, or they're crying for no reason. And yes, Lisa. So Lisa's saying my autoimmune system is on overload. That is exactly what I'm talking about. Because the autoimmune system is our energy, it's our aura. And so imagine if you have too much data floating around. It's like too many files are downloading in your computer at the same time, and you know how that slows your computer down. But we don't know it for ourselves. We don't realize we've assimilated too much energy, and we aren't able to separate ourselves from all the exterior chaos. So then we feel like we're part of that. And that makes our immune system go berserk. And I'm sorry to hear that it's on overload. We'll be doing an aura clearing as part of this. So hopefully that'll give you a little bit of relief. And if it gives you a little relief, remember this is recorded. So you can go back and listen to just the end where the clearing is, and help reboot and rebuild your immune system. And, I just got over being sick myself. I came off very intensive teaching, and after the teaching, I planned to rest. But I had stuff built into my rest. I mean, I'm sure you guys all know how that is. It's like, oh, I've got a vacation at home, and really what it is you've got a week to try to do, you're doing your honey-do list of all the things that you need to do around your house, and you're not really resting. So because I wasn't resting, my team basically was like, all right, you need to be sick, because you need to be sick and in bed, because that's the only way you will actually stop and rest and calm the chaos inside of you, because you have no more interaction with chaos around you. And what was interesting for me is that in that place of when I was able to separate my energy, Lisa, from the collective, I wasn't on my computer, I wasn't on Facebook, I wasn't interacting with my clients, my students, really with anyone except for my husband. And I really was just, I didn't feel good enough I had strep, and I had severe sinus infection, and I didn't feel good enough to really go anywhere or do anything. And the most I did was sit outside on my porch and soak in a little nature and a little sunlight, and was asking Mother Earth to help heal me. And then I would come in and I would nap. And so it was more about how much fluid could I keep in my body. And I just couldn't worry about anything else. And in that place, there was this clarity of how much of the outside energy, when we're stressed, when we're tired, when we've worked really hard or pushed through really hard a bunch of things, how run down we are. And how do we refill ourselves to a point where that chaotic energy doesn't set us off like that, or set our immune system into overload. And I know exactly what you're talking about. I worked with a client earlier who has lupus, and there are plenty of times when it's basically dormant. But during COVID, it really activated because there were so many stressors. Her her kids were home remote learning, and their schedules were thrown off, and money and different things, and it's like all of those stressors came in and reactivated parts of, showed her where her weaknesses are in her immune system. And I'm sure that's happening for you. Like there's probably key places in your body where when your immune system starts to feel a little more compromised, it's like those key spots that hurt first. For me, often my first sign that things are out of balance is I'll get a neck ache, like my neck will hurt, or I'll start to get a little bit of a headache that starts in the back of my neck. And then I might have pressure in my shoulders or in my hips, because my hips have been, from all the years of dancing, I was a dancer and a dance teacher. I put a lot of stress on my hips. So those are places where I start to get sore first. And those are my warning signs. But like most of us, you're just like, oh, it's my old injury, acting up. And we don't go, ooh, why is that acting up? What do I need to do to bring myself into balance so that's not hurting again? So that chaotic energy, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be good or bad. It's just something that's not in our normal. And the minute things are a little not normal, you can imagine our inner child, freaking out a little bit, like, what's going on? The sky is falling, that Chicken Little energy. And that can be really difficult for us. And, as strong, independent people, we often judge ourselves a little harshly about when something comes up and it just is difficult for us to manage. Well, it's no big deal. I'm overreacting. No, you have a bunch of energy that's shaking and needing to come out, and it's coming out because you weren't aware of it. And so when we have that overreaction, or we're watching a movie and we're crying and we're surprised, right? You watch a Hallmark movie and you know how it's going to come out, but sometimes just the feels come on and, you start crying and it's going to be fine in the end, but you have that release valve that needs to go. And how often are we apologetic that, we're overreacting because, or I don't know what came over me because I'm feeling all of this. And in that stirred up place, we often apologize for having emotions, having feelings, having reactions, and we're trained to grab onto our coping mechanisms. And those coping mechanisms may not be healthy. It may not be okay, I need more sleep, I need more fluids. That's what's going to help me. It might not be that. It might be I'm grabbing that chocolate bar and that bottle of wine and I'll see you later. Or it might be, I'm going to buy 50 new pairs of shoes on Amazon because I don't want to think about what's going on. I want to distract myself. We might have unhealthy ways of dealing with our stress. And we're not really taught, we're not socialized and taught on healthy ways to eliminate that chaotic feeling. It's becoming talked about more often. There's a lot of people who are talking about grounding and talking about breathing and focusing on your breath and being in the present moment. Because all of those things help calm the chaos. because then you're not worried about what might be in the future. You're just in the now. And it's when we're in the all the what ifs and the could be's, and we're bringing forward all the things that happened in the past, and well, that might happen because of this. We're not here, and that can start the chaos rolling. So Lisa's saying absolutely joint arthritis, but new hyper saliva. My speech is screwed as well. I'm sorry. I lost my mom and my brother 6 months apart, and I'm still feeling the grief as well. Yes. The grief process, it has to go through all of its cycles. And when it hasn't gone through all of its cycles, it does really impact our all of our functions. The speech part, what I'm sensing in there is that when you can find space, I guess space is the right word, when you can find space to really allow yourself the feels of your grieving, and that means all of them, not just like it's socially okay to be sad, but we also can have feelings of anger and resentment and abandonment, and the righteous anger of why now, or why this, or why so close together. We lost my my brother-in-law a few years ago. We lost him in October, and then lost my father-in-law in April, and then lost my sister-in-law like the following February. And so I understand that it's like you haven't even processed one before the next one came on. And then, you know, I'm assuming that some of that might have happened in COVID as well. And that's a, you know, we're grieving the loss of what society was like and what it is like now. And even though it may be coming back in some regards, it may not be all the way back. You know, the other day someone held the door for me, and I realized how long it had been since someone held the door for you. And to be in that place of, oh, it's been a while since somebody held the door, and the wanting to shake hands or wanting to hug, and that may not be happening with certain people. So that we're grieving as a society, and to have your own layers, you know, 2 more layers of grief on top of that, just really allow yourself some space to go through that process. You're probably the person that I brought this out for. My team is always like, oh, you might need this. So there's this really good book called The Grief Club. And I think this is good for everyone. The secret to getting through all kinds of change. And what we don't realize is that chaotic change may be something that stirs our own grief. Like I know, yep. I'm glad you landed in the right spot. It really, it's amazing when that happens, you know, and I'm sure somebody is going to watch this after the fact and exactly when they need it. Cause that's how this goes. But I know even, you know, I'm sure Julie just moved this year too, you know, she's in a grieving process as well. You're grieving losing your old house, even if it was like we wanted to move and you're where you love and where you want to be, there's still loss this loss of the rhythm of that old household, just how the house flowed, how you went from the living room into the kitchen or went into the bathroom. It's like you did those things on automatic pilot, and when you moved, all of a sudden you had to think about those things again. And so there's that grief of, oh, I can't just be, I've got to think. And as we're getting settled, we're trying to find a new rhythm. So we can be grieving the fact that we're not in a rhythm yet, or it still doesn't feel quite right, and we can be grieving the loss of, our favorite coffee shop. And it may seem small and insignificant, but it's all chaos. It's all change, and it's that place of, it's okay to be in that place. It's okay to be not okay. How about that, straight into the point? It's okay to not be okay. And it's okay to be in a place where you say, I don't have it today. I don't have the bandwidth. That's the spiritual term we use. Is I don't have the bandwidth to do that thing today. Last week was strep throat and a sinus infection. I could barely talk, let alone have a conversation. Even if it's channeled with spirit, I just knew that I didn't have enough stamina to do my show last week. And that energy of, heaviness, of, shame or blame or whatever, or, oh no, I'm not there for people. It's like, no, it's being okay with, this is where I'm at right now. And when we're saturated, being able to say, I'm saturated. I don't have enough energy to help you with that, or I don't have enough energy to tackle that. Or I know when we were in our move, there were times with my husband where it was like, okay, what are we going to have for dinner? And it's like, I can't make one more decision. I'm saturated with decision making today. So whatever you offer, it's going to be yes. And I don't care if we order takeout pizza, 3 times this week, because I can't make a decision. And it's the only thing we have on speed dial right now. Okay, it may not be my favorite choice, but it was one of those things that there are times when it's just okay to be not okay. That the chaos can swirl inside of us and swirl around us, and we can just get quiet. And in those moments of getting quiet, just ask spirit, however that resonates for you, to help you go into the places where it's most stressed, most chaotic, or most tight and uncomfortable, or where your pain is, and help you find ways to get that energy back in motion. Because all of our energy is meant to be in motion. That's what emotions are, energy in motion. And when we're having them, it's fantastic. It's an indicator that something is going on. And when we're having physical pain, it's an indicator that something's going on. It's why we go to the doctor, right? So when we're sensing chaos inside of us, we've probably been seeing it around us for quite a while. And we're just in that place of overload. And in those places of overload, finding a way to get quiet with spirit so that you can fill yourself up and push out some of the chaotic energy out of your aura so that it's separate from you, so you can feel more centered, grounded, and like you. um, so I hope that all made sense. um, and just remember that chaos, um, it can be emotional, it can be physical. Sometimes it's mental. Sometimes it's our brain just going on and on and on and on and on and on and on, and it just won't stop. I had a lot of people that I worked with in the past year who had so many mental things going on, so many things they were trying to figure out. So they weren't able to sleep very well. They were having trouble having trouble focusing at work on how to be in the task at hand because there was so much going on. Or people who need to work in quiet and they're trying to work from home, and so is everybody else. It's not conducive for some people to work in that kind of environment. And it pulled every last fiber of our beings to get through that. And now we might be a little afraid. I mean, that's what I see energetically, is like people who've been pulling their hair out, or just trying to hold it together, and doing the best they can not to use those addictive coping mechanisms. But I know that a lot of people have slipped into them, and the big one, like I said, the big one I'm seeing is using our devices as a coping mechanism to escape, and being on them like for hours and hours. I have an Apple, I have an iPhone, and so once a week it tells me how my average screen time each day, and for the week, you average this many hours and this many minutes. And during COVID, how much that creeped up because all the communication with my clients was on the phone and through texting and through messaging. And so I was, on that for hours and hours. And it because you weren't seeing people in person. And so we got into that habit, and some of us were in the habit before that even. So, think about how that might, influence. So we're going to do a clearing healing for calming the chaos, and we're going to clear it in each of the energetic bodies. So we will clear the physical, the emotional, the mental, and the spiritual, because all of those four in particular impact what's going on in our current life. So let's get to that, because I think it'll be nice to get calm, nice to calm that down. And then nice to have this as a reference when we might need it, for those times when things do get kind of crazy. So we're just going to get comfortable in, your chair or however you're sitting. I invite you to have your arms and your legs uncrossed. We want to have open circuits for the energy to flow through. It allows spirit to move through more quickly and to help navigate our energy flow in a more rhythmic fashion. That's how it's coming through. So let's take a deep breath and blow out. And breathe in and blow out. And we're going to invite in spirit, however we sense that, whether we connect to the divine mother, father, goddess, all that is oneness, consciousness, welcoming in our own personal connection to the divine. And inviting the divine to surround and protect us in a bubble of infinite love and infinite light, creating a cocoon of healing filled with safety and security. We're also going to ask that this bubble help us strengthen, restore, and repair our aura in all of its layers. And we're going to invite in our spiritual teams, our angels, our guides, our ancestors, the star beings and mystical creatures, all divine of the highest, fullest, and brightest vibration available to us in this moment. And we set the intention that all the healing is for the highest benefit of all and harm to none. And we're going to begin by calling in the divine energy above our crown, allowing us to feel the flow and the connection to our higher self, to the center of our soul, the center of creation. Opening, balancing our third eye, our thoughts, our perceptions, really quieting the energy, restoring it to balance. Integrating all of our senses to work together as a team. Our five senses and our intuition, lovingly providing us with information to help us see, feel, and sense more clearly our own energy and that of our environment. Allowing our ears to bring balance into all of our communication so we can hear and be heard more clearly, including sensing and knowing the guidance from our spiritual team, opening new avenues and new pathways for communication with our team, so we can experience the calming energy of blessed guidance. And in the throat, really opening up our authentic truth, our self expression, our creativity, making space to voice all things without judgment, releasing some of the heaviness that we may be carrying on our shoulders as responsibilities, burdens, chores. And even the ways that we judge ourself and our reactions, and really opening up our lungs for breathing more deeply, experiencing our life more fully, allowing sacred oxygen to flow through our entire being so that the divine energy moves through our cells and our blood, our tissue, our muscles, our bones. Allowing the calming and brightening of our energy and our energy field, making space in our heart for our emotions to flow, asking the Divine Mother energy, the feminine goddess, Mother Mary Kuan Yin, to fill our heart and connect it to our high heart, the transcendental heart that knows and remembers unconditional love, filling the heart of our inner child with love and protection, safety and security. And moving into our belly, into our third chakra, to all of our beautiful organs that digest everything that we experience, filter out what we don't need, save what we do. Whether it is food or experiences, thoughts and emotions, calming any inner fears or places where we've held too much discomfort, dis-ease, lovingly breaking apart any ways we have compressed our energy to be smaller than who we are, less visible, moving down into our second chakra and into our lower organs. That help all of our energy flow, our emotions flow, restoring them to motion. Breaking apart the need for our coping mechanisms at the moment, putting them on the shelf, giving ourselves space to simply be okay with being okay or even being not okay. Sending healing energy to any places where we still may be experiencing pain, discomfort, dis-ease in our ears or our neck or our shoulders, our jaw, our lungs, our heart, our back, our belly, our hips, and finally expanding into our root chakra, clearing away any residual insecurity, instability in all aspects of our life and our being, allowing our energy to deepen, moving down each of our legs, over our thighs, helping us with flexibility, adaptability, resilience, and strength. Moving all the way down through our feet, connecting to the bottom of our hara line that goes deep beneath the surface, all the way down through the center of the earth, connecting to the molten lava center, the heartbeat of Grandmother Earth, and asking the Divine Mother to expand our hara line, our grounding cord, our connection, to be wider so we can feel more anchored, more steady, more grounded, more focused, and feeling that expansion coming up through our legs and our hips, through our torso, up through our shoulders, beyond our neck and head. And also expanding our connection up to the center of our soul's creation. And now, as the divine energy flows to us and through us, gently checking the layers of our aura that have been healing and repairing, our physical aura, tight around our body. Our emotional aura. Giving it definition and space. Our mental aura. Room for our thoughts to flow freely without spinning or congestion. The spiritual layer of our aura. Ways we connect to spirit and sense our own divine being. And even sealing up our layer of karma, our past lives, creating more space for energy to flow through there as well. And connecting to the beyond. Allowing our energy to remember that experience, whole and full, bright and shiny, clear and calm. Now gently bring your awareness back to your heart space, the unconditional love being held there. Notice your lungs as they breathe around your heart, the in and the out of your breath. Feel your rib cage and your torso, your shoulders, your neck, your head, your arms. Your lower back, your hips, your thighs, your legs, your feet, your muscles, your bones, all in the present moment. And take a couple of deep breaths. And welcome back to the moment. And here we are. So Rob lovingly shared my website, trinitymysticalenergy.com. It's where you can find me, my teachings, and my store that has healing remedies and crystals and books for your soul's journey, and artwork and things. Anything that speaks to spirit within you or your creativity may be there at our store in the boutique at Trinity Mystical Energy. So next week we will be back here, and we will be talking about creating your heart's desire. You know, there's these longings and yearnings that our soul has within us, and we often dismiss that because we're caught up in the everyday life and everyday doing. So we're going to be tapping into what your soul is yearning to create, and help it rise out of you through your heart's desire. And for those of you who remember our show, Soul Connections, we will be coming back in July, on July 11th. We will have our monthly soul connection. Um, Oh, I'm so glad, Lisa, that you felt your head and body being worked on. Yes. Yeah, the spiritual teams are right on it. Sometimes they'll move your arms and everything. So I'm glad you experienced that. And just so you know, this healing transmission still can go on while you're sleeping this evening. So you might sense that being worked on again this evening, especially since you had so much going on. So, next Sunday at 10 a.m., we'll be doing Soul Connections, where we will have the healing meditation, and I will be doing the monthly card draw to see what the energy is up for you for the month, and maybe to get some guidance on something that's been going on for you and how can you move through it. So I will be doing that on July 11th. But I hope to see you guys next week. And thank you, Rob, for being my co-pilot and helping me. Thank you, Julie. Glad you were here. Miss you. Hope to see you at some point soon. So with that, you guys have a blessed rest of your week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for helping me be on my mission, which is to heal the healers, because you guys got your own light you need to shine. See you next time. Bye.